After last week's two-part mid-season slappers, fans of the Bad Batch may have felt a bit underwhelmed with The Crossing, and that is understandable, but this episode is far from filler and can't be described as standalone either thanks to its cliffhanger ending. Now that doesn't mean that the Batch's adventure in a cave looking for minerals was overly thrilling and watercooler worthy either. But if you're here for character development, Episode 9 delivered in spades, most notably with Tech and Omega. The loss of Echo has undoubtedly affected the clones more than they're willing to admit outside of Omega. She clearly is devastated and not getting the type of comfort she needs from her battle-hardened brothers, which allowed for some insightful character development to take place between her and Tech in particular. Tech really was the star of this episode, even if he at first came off as a very cold and lacking empathy for Omega's emotional response to Echo leaving. Tech has always felt like a protocol droid, the organic version of a C-3PO, albeit with courage and bravery, so seeing him have to grapple with his programming per se while dealing with a kid's emotions was quite enlightening. Tech is a character I'd assume many males can identify with thanks to how men are mostly taught to bury their emotions and approach the world as pragmatically as possible. Through his special abilities and his years in war, he's become even more hardened and matter-of-fact than his brothers, so it was informative to watch him struggle with Omega's emotions and how to handle them, while also seeing him grow with his own just a bit due to her. The two really did grow in this episode, with Tech taking the biggest leap in beginning to understand that the world is no longer ones and zeros, and that as a member of a family, he has to be better at handling the highs and lows of being a part of one and loving someone. Omega also benefited from Tech's emotional breakthrough, and dare I say, he essentially dropped some Jedi lessons on her about the perils of emotion and attachments. If anything, he's as close to a Jedi as a clone got, and I'm not talking magical powers. I'm talking about how he chooses to approach relationships and the ebbs and flows they can bring to someone's life. His talk helped Omega realize more about who he is and why he reacted the way he does. Which, when it comes to family, the more you know what makes them tick, the better the bond and relationship shall be. Beyond the character growth, one overarching plot point of note played out, and that is Cid's reluctance to help her mercs. One would hope that her hesitancy to help at first, and her delayed pledge to help will further open the Batch's eyes to her shadiness. This was a reminder about Melegi's warning from a few episodes back about Cid's character, and it seems the warning is more poignant now than ever. So hopefully they take note and shift gears once or if they get their floating home back. It's not just transport Tech, or maybe he gets that now after his therapy session with Omega. How about some top moments? Up first, I have to go with Tech pissing off Omega with his callous attitude towards Echo's departure and his inability to realize that it is really messing with her head. This scene provided great setup for Tech's growth throughout the episode, because it perfectly showed how detached he has become from emotions, and that like a Jedi, he has found a way to bury his to ensure that he can complete his mission to the fullest of his ability and not be distracted by attachments. Omega's reaction, on the other hand, is exactly what you'd expect out of someone who wasn't bred to be a warrior. She is the emotional intelligence of the team, and not just because she's young. She's not battle-hardened, and she's prone to form attachments due to her age, so she provided a great contrast to how her brothers handled Echo leaving, which was more or less business as usual for them. The second moment is where Tech really put off some Jedi vibes when he opened up to Omega about why it doesn't seem like he cares about Echo leaving or the loss of the Marauder, which Omega reminded them all is their home and not just a transport. His advice about how people deal with emotions differently and that it doesn't mean they don't care was brilliant, and it really showcased his growth. He got as soft as his wiring allowed him, but it was enough to make her understand that everyone handles emotions differently, especially when it comes to familial losses. This growth on both their parts will not be wasted, so expect some follow-up next week, and hopefully it isn't laced with tragedy, because I don't think fans or Omega could take another loss for Clone Force 99. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subbing to our YouTube channel. We'd also love for you to join in with our weekly Star Wars podcast, so use the links in this video's description or head to StarWarsTime.net to subscribe to the platform of your choice. There's always time for Star Wars time, and remember, if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you, always.